Hello there. What is going on, everybody? We're going to be talking about the Gauntlet Fighter for X-Wing. And this is the ultimate Mandalorian superiority fighter in all of Star Wars, at least that we know of right now, as far as what we have been seeing recently. This thing has showed up all over the place and is also recently announced as of Mini Stravaganza as coming to X-Wing Miniatures game. And we're going to talk about this a little bit today because there have been some recent talks about this and some information about this on Twitter. And so I want to share with you guys some information that maybe you have not seen already. If you guys are new here to the channel, be sure to enter to win that $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. Plus, I'd love to have you stick around for a while. Anyhow, we have plenty of great links down in the video description below if you'd like to join our Discord. We have the C5 Discord. It's a good family-friendly Discord for X-Wing, Armada, Legion, as well as other tabletop games. I also want to thank today's sponsor, Luxury Playstyle. We have amazing full metal tokens for you guys. All you have to do is use this code Crabbok VIP. You're going to save 15% off of your exquisite, amazing tokens. They're double-sided, a variety of different finishes. They come for different games as well. They have X-Wing, all the Arkham games, Keyforge, L5R, and more. So definitely check out all of your amazing tokens over at Luxury Playstyle. You're going to love those. Use code Crabbok VIP. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the Gauntlet Fighter. There has a thread. I'm going to link this thread in the video description as well. It's also linked on my Discord. This is the Gauntlet Fighter's coming, and Gavin Duffy, who was a producer over at Fantasy Flight Games and also had moved over to Atomic Mass, has decided to talk a little bit about it. Now, he's not like breaking any there's no like specific card spoilers or anything, but he wanted to talk about this a little bit, and so he started a thread on Twitter, and I think this was probably a ship that he was particularly excited about. So he's at Mr. Gavinport if you want to follow him on Twitter. So he says, it's up to me to share one of my favorite projects from Star Wars X-Wing that was finally announced, the Gauntlet Starfighter. And he puts a couple of images in here, so it's a pretty cool thread, and I want to kind of talk about this a little bit today because maybe you haven't seen it, maybe you don't use Twitter. If you did, maybe you'll follow me on Twitter too. I'm at Crabbok over there. So an interesting thing here is talking about the size. He puts this really cool picture up here of the Gauntlet, and he says, the Gauntlet, aka the Kom'rk-class Fighter, was a ship I had always wanted to get into X-Wing. This is an image of a Gauntlet scaled to our X-Wing that I glued to a piece of cardboard and cut out. It lived on my desk, and I brought it to many pitch meetings, right? And so you kind of get an idea of big ships like the Millennium Falcon, the Ghost, which is monstrously huge, and then you have the Kom'rk, and then you have all the epic ships over here. Now, a point of distinction, this is not necessarily exactly how large this is going to be in game. This was a piece of cardboard that he had. This is just to give you an idea of like how big this ship is in canon. It's massively huge. And so I was always curious, like, how are they going to do this in X-Wing? I remember seeing this on like Rebels and all these other shows that it showed up in, wondering personally how they were going to do a ship like this if they ever did for X-Wing, because it's such a weird spot where it's not exactly epic, but it seems like it's too big to go on a large base, so how are they going to do it? So he talks about this, and he elaborates a little bit on some of the thought processes that went behind something like this. And he says, the issue is always the scale. Larger than the Ghost, but smaller than the huge bases. For those that don't know, huge ships in X-Wing are scaled down compared to the rest. That is to say, everything to the left of the Gauntlet is smaller than it should be. So I'm going to scroll up again to this image and talk about this a little bit. So like the GR-75 and everything else, I forget the exact number, but when these ships first came out for X-Wing, there was a specific number of scale, like 1 to 197 or something like that all the regular X-Wing ships are. And then like all of the huge ships, they had to do them like at like kind of twice the scale, or basically like half scale. So like 1 to 250 or something. I'm sorry, no, like 1 to like 400 or somewhere around those lines. So they kind of like, because X-Wing, they've always tried to put things into like an exact scale, or as close to exact as they could. Sometimes that's tricky because some ships, they've kind of been shown in multiple different scales, and so but generally all of your standard X-Wing ships are in a kind of a similar scale. And there really isn't a sliding scale. But when it came to the huge ships, the only way they could do those without making them like monstrously ginormous and also monstrously expensive was to kind of put them at a half scale. And so that was the compromise, and it still ended up looking good. But if you hold like a CR-90 up against the Millennium Falcon, the CR-90 in reality, if it was a movie or in canon, should be almost twice as big. Yeah, and that's me roughly remembering the scales that they had announced when they first did. So if you want to search Fantasy Flights, fantasyflightgames.com, and if you want to search through all their news archives and find the, like when they first started announcing huge ships, you would see like there's an old article out there. Maybe somebody will link it in the comments section, where they actually named the exact scale that they were using for epic ships, and so that was basically, you know, everything from here on over is in that kind of half scale. So the Millennium Falcon shouldn't be just about half the size of a GR-75. It should be a little bit closer to a quarter the size. Okay, I think I'm making my point over and over again. So, but that's important, I think, to kind of set the frame for like the rest of some of this discussion, because I think it's really interesting on the thought process and where they ended up landing. So it says, do we make it a very large base, or do we put it in scale to the huge ships? Now, if they put it in scale with the huge ships, that would mean it's about half size, right? And then have it end up being smaller than the Ghost. And it was definitely much larger than the Ghost. In the end, there was a compromise with a sliding scale. The length of the Gauntlet was capped to be the length of the Ghost. Now, as you can see here, and again, this was a mock-up, so this isn't necessarily how it's going to be, but this was, you know, to give you an idea of where this ship might fall compared to these other ships. They had to shrink this one down, so it's going to be a little bit closer to Ghost size. Now, because it's wider than the Ghost and has more mass kind of in the rear, it's probably still going to be a larger ship than the Ghost. I think the AMG Mini Stravaganza, they did say that this was the largest standard plate, the largest ship they've ever done outside of huge ships. So even capping the length at the Ghost's length only shrinks this thing down by probably about 10%. And I think it still has it be the largest. So let's scroll down and kind of keep going with the thread a little bit. He says, we wanted to keep the Gauntlet in the core game because that's where you see it most often in media, involved in dogfights and skirmishes, and often as a support over battlefields. However, Michael Gurnis made sure it had its place in Epic as well. And that, it kind of leaves you right there. So it's going to be interesting to see if this comes with some like a different version of the ship that can be used in Epic and maybe can take Epic upgrades. Of course, you can use any ship in Epic. And of course, it might just be that mechanically it happens to function well in the Epic rule set. It might be very expensive, so it works a little bit better at higher point games. Might have some mechanics that work really well against other Epic ships that tend to not be very dodgy, you know. So that's kind of promising as well. What about the huge wings? Do they move? Do they go up and down and spin like the Fang Fighter? Yes to the former, no to the latter. That was a mechanical puzzle our sculpting team wrestled with for a while and came out with 3 options. All right, so we've got a couple of photos here. So, we do see it kind of like this a couple of times in Rebels. Also, the Mando ships, the wings can kind of spin around them, kind of like B-wing style, gyroscopic. And so, ever since X-Wing 2nd Edition, they've been trying to put more of an emphasis on moving parts, especially where they're canonically appropriate and where they make the most sense. Not everything is moving, but a lot more stuff can and does move, which is really cool. And so, like even the Fang Fighters, the wings kind of swivel about. So it seems like they decided to make them go up and down, but not necessarily swivel around. We could make the wings go perpendicular to the ground, like you see when the ship is parked or hovering. We could have wings spin around like a collar, like the Fang Fighters, or we could do both, but the wings would have to move independent of one another. As Dork Girl Simone Elliott demonstrated at Mini Stravaganza, we chose perpendicular. This orientation we see most often in media. The wings are so wide that they would smack the table and or the ships around them in play. And we didn't want dog-eared gauntlets with the independent wings. So I think that means they're going to go kind of up and down, like they'll be able to go this way, but then the wings can kind of move up. I don't think they'll be statically up. I don't know if they'll I don't think they're going to basically do that, because if you go up here, it's like, do they go up and down? And it's and basically yes. So it'll be interesting to see if they're like staying up or if they're going to be able to move up. But yeah, so again, really, really cool. And again, because if they made them do both, then like if they spun independently and did this, then then you could basically set them up in some weird ways, and you could you'd be able to kind of set them up in strange positions. Hence, they'd look like dog ears if you did both maneuvers at the same time. That's kind of my takeaway with that. And so he thanks Dave Filoni for the glut of content you gave us for this ship. Which model do we sculpt? There's one from early Clone Wars. There's one from late Clone Wars and Rebels. There's even one in The Mandalorian. All are slightly different, and that's one of the animation style things that you tend to notice. And it's really cool when you start getting into these ships and you start looking. I know like a lot of sculptors and modders will look at stuff and like, this is slightly different than that, and this is slightly different than that. Mandalorian has been a really interesting one for content too, because you're getting the live action version of a lot of stuff, and we saw like the Gozantis looked different in The Mandalorian than they did in Rebels and in other content. The Architans looked way different in The Mandalorian than it did in the Clone Wars. Of course, the whole different style, right? One's live action, one's Clone Wars style content, plus it's 30 years later or whatever, so who knows, right? But so very, very cool stuff. We have a lot of slightly different, I should say. They're still mostly conceptually the same. Some big differences between these two right here on the kind of the front center. We decided that the Clone Wars Rebels version, because it looks meaner, the little mandible cannons were much less likely to be busted off. That's an important thing, because people be breaking ships. I have broken many ships. I have broken some during unboxings, though. Those of you who have been following me for a long time will remember that I have, on numerous occasions, done damage to ships while trying to perform an unboxing, because I'm a overexcited child at times. And we didn't see the model from The Mandalorian until we were already in production. Okay, but what about coloring? Oh, yes. Which faction should we do? Due to the turbulence of Mandalore's history, everyone has one of these. We have Death Watch and Pre Vizsla's flagship, Maul's flagship, Clan Kryze, and the Imperials. And under those named, they sometimes fought for multiple sides. So why choose? A little Oprah gif. We decided to spread out the love and include something for as many factions as we could feasibly flesh out. Sorry, sequels. So yeah, nothing for the First Order or the Resistance there, but they just got a whole bunch of other stuff, so that should all balance out, right? Cool. The cool thing is here, like new Imperial ship, new Rebel ships. That's groovy. New Scum ship. Does Scum need more? I don't know, but they're getting it. In the case of the omnipresent Bo-Katan, that meant more than one home, as we wanted to keep it thematic. This is common throughout the Wave's products. So in other words, this is not the only thing you're going to see that has more than one home, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this. And if you followed all of the mini extravaganza stuff and you followed my recap for that, you've already seen some of these images. Bo-Katan shows up in multiple factions. Here she is as a separatist, and here she is with the Republic. And of course, there could be more options for Bo-Katan as well. The Gauntlet Fighter looks dope. The people who fly it are iconic. But what's the coolest thing we actually see it used for? By the way, I love the way that he's like crafted this whole thread. So very cool stuff. Deploying these badass warriors as transport. I mean, they fly out of these things like bees and are just as pissed. So, of course, we're talking about the Mandalorians on their jetpacks flying out of this thing. We saw a lot of this in Rebels too, right? The Commandos remote started as a bit of a joke internally, laughing about little Mandos flying around wrecking shop. We see it in the Clone Wars. We see it in Rebels. Luckily, Max C. Brook on Twitter, paved the way with buzz droids, and Michael was willing to take the leap. So pretty cool stuff here. We've seen the commandos already. They are basically you drop them on the board and they get to shoot. I think they get to shoot 2 times and they get to kind of fly around and then use their blasters and try to take shots at ships. It's actually really cool. It's really cool. 5 factions worth of ships. New faction-based remotes. Here come those thematics again, and as awesome as the commandos are, they aren't the only shiny new thing you'll be seeing in this box. So stay tuned. I just need to take a second to shout out that the real Razwit, who knocked out this entire wave of product out of the park, a very talented art director and very talented artists like Ryan Val, or Valley. I'm not sure how to exactly pronounce his last name there. I'm guessing Valley, so sorry, Ryan, if I got your name incorrect. Make this one of our most gorgeous waves yet. Writing these briefs was a blast. It is great artwork, by the way. I hope people enjoy this beautiful chunk of plastic as much as I do. I can appreciate the hard work that went into it from the whole team. Shout out to Michael Gurnis. Congratulations on your first wave of X-Wing. A mighty strong way to finish. So that kind of wraps up the tweet thread. I'll have a link to that whole thread in the video description below. Look, it's exciting. I think it's going to be a beautiful ship. I would warn people, though, if you're an X-Wing player and you are excited about this ship, I don't know how many of them you'll realistically be able to fit on your table at the same time, but you may want to get a pre-order in soon. I have a feeling that this ship is going to be beautiful and big and amazing and recognizable and iconic, and with the popularization of Mandalorians in recent time and with the book of Boba Fett coming out, and who knows how many more of these we are going to see. Actually, I really like this concept art right here. This is gorgeous. It's going to be a popular ship, right? There's probably going to be collectors and fans of Star Wars that pick this up to have it on their shelf. This happens in miniatures games. It happens frequently in Fantasy Flight games, miniatures games. It happens, people buy these things, they don't play the game, they just have them on their shelf. It happens a lot with Armada, with the Star Destroyers, the Super Star Destroyers. Happens a lot with X-Wing, the Millennium Falcon, the Ghost, and other like iconic, recognizable ships. You may want to pick one of these up before they sell out, right? I have a feeling it might be a ship that sells out. That's just me speculating, but it would not surprise me to see, if you go to a Star Wars fan's house who doesn't play this, if they happen to have one of these on a shelf. Because, look, it's a super cool ship, and it's becoming more and more recognizable, especially like right here in Mandalorian. But I think we saw this probably the most in Star Wars Rebels. It's going to be super cool. And I cannot wait to see the repaints. Speaking of repaints, this is a good time to remind you guys of my Discord. We have painting competitions. It's October now. We're doing a Halloween painting competition. And so I want to see your best Halloween themed paint jobs. It can be anything spooky. It can be, Halloween themed colors. Even if it's like loosely Halloween, I want you to be able to go ahead and share it. The winner is going to become an Artisan of Fate, which is a special Discord role for people who have won painting competitions. That's the only way to get the Artisan of Fate title, and that'll run all the way up and through Halloween. And in November, we'll announce the winner for that. We'll be doing painting competitions every once in a while when new waves come out periodically. Legion will have a painting competition when the Kashyyyk wave comes out, and stuff like that. So for October, we're doing a Halloween-themed painting competition over in Discord. Love to have you over there. Plus, we do giveaways in there from time to time as well. So stay tuned for all kinds of good stuff like that. And then, of course, we're going to be doing 12 Days of Life Day giveaway in December for subscribers who leave comments on videos. It's lots more giveaways are coming. But we'll have to stay tuned and see more of the Gauntlet when it eventually comes out. And I think, why was this tweet thread even made? Well, I think Gavin was really proud of this ship. I think he was really proud of this wave and all the people that worked on it. And there's been a lot of people let go. If you've been following me, I've talked about that for a while. It's been a lot of shakeups in the Star Wars miniatures gaming world between Fantasy Flight and AMG. And I think a lot of folks there's been a sense of community that's kind of been blown apart. So I think a lot of people are using every opportunity they can to thank their coworkers for all their great work. And so to all of you watching, if you had a part in this or any of the other games, Legion, Armada, X-Wing, heck, even Destiny, or one of my favorite board games of all time, Star Wars Rebellion, like in all of these games, the heck, new Outer Rim content coming up. Everybody who's worked on these games, I thank you all so much for your contributions to our amazing hobby, my amazing fandom, and the great times that have been had at tabletops across the planet. Thank you all for your great work. Thanks, Gavin, for this really cool insight. And thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Same bat channel. This is not a Batman channel. I don't know why I'm even saying that. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you did like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Be sure to click that bell for alerts. Check the other links in the description below. And keep flying, keep gaming, and I will talk to you later. Thank you so much to my patrons. You guys are amazing and help keep this channel running. Always remember, if you're attacking a bear with a tennis racket, you're doing it wrong.